Bob Avakian, Revolution, number 60. The fascist Supreme Court backs up fascist Donald Trump. The naked dictatorship of the capitalist imperialist ruling class and the urgent need and real possibility for revolution. In a recent decision, the Supreme Court essentially supported Donald Trump's claims that as president, he is above the law, that anything he has done in his capacity as president is legal because he did it as president. Why did the Supreme Court rule this way? Because the majority of the Supreme Court is a bunch of fascists. As I made clear in message number 53, as a form of political rule, fascism represents the undisguised dictatorship of the capitalist imperialist ruling class, essentially doing away with the pretense of democracy and rights for the people, and openly relying on violence and terrorizing people to enforce this dictatorship. Christian fascism is the driving force of fascism in this country. Christian fascism is not the same as Christianity in general as a religion. Christian fascism is a fanatical version of Christian fundamentalism, similar in many ways to the Islamic fundamentalists in the Taliban now ruling Afghanistan. Again from message number 53. The Christian fascists in and out of government have been the driving force in the move to overturn the right to abortion. And that is just one part of their overall horrific agenda. The Christian fascists are determined to suppress anything and everything that challenges the myth of America as God's chosen nation. This Supreme Court is now an instrument of the fascists, who have never accepted and are out to overturn changes that have been brought about in this country over the past 75 years, with the fight against racist oppression and for the rights of women and LGBT people, as well as government regulation that does not actually stop, but claims to limit such things as the devastation of the environment. The Christian fascists are lunatic deniers of the science of climate change, as well as the science of evolution and the scientific method in general. As I also pointed out in message number 53, Trump privately has contempt for Christian fundamentalists, but he made an unholy alliance with the Christian fascists and adopted their Dark Ages agenda. And now many of the Christian fascists regard him as the savior of America. And that is the actual reason why the Christian fascist Supreme Court majority has ruled in the way it has, granting Trump a suitcase full of immunity for the crimes he committed while president, including his attempts to pull off a coup to overturn the results of the election he lost in 2020. The aim of these fascists on the Supreme Court is to make it much harder to prosecute Trump for those crimes and much easier for him to again become president and to have basically unchecked power as president to carry out his fascist agenda and viciously repress those who get in the way of doing that. As I have also pointed out, this Supreme Court, dominated by these Christian fascists, has now become the most powerful governing institution in the country, with the basis to decide whether any law or act of government is legal or not. And there is no appeal from the rulings of this Supreme Court. This court no longer sees its role as ruling on whether something is in agreement with the capitalist constitution of this country, or settling disputes among the capitalist rulers of the country on the basis of that constitution. Now it has become the instrument of one section, the fascist section of the ruling class, represented by the Republican Party. A fundamental truth is that both of the dominant political parties of this system, the Democrats as well as the Republicans, are guilty and cannot avoid being guilty of the most horrendous war crimes and crimes against humanity, like the genocide against the Palestinian people that both the Republicans and genocide Joe Biden and the Democrats are fully backing and aiding. Why? For the basic reason that murderous oppression and ruthless exploitation of masses of people in this country, and literally billions of people throughout the world, as well as the accelerating destruction of the environment and wars for domination, including the danger of nuclear war between rival capitalist imperialist powers, all this is built into this system of capitalism imperialism, and no politician or political party can change that. Now, keeping in mind that, among other things, this Supreme Court would be the ultimate authority with regard to whether the results of elections in this country are legitimate, it should be all the more clear that attempts to bring about an end to injustice and atrocity by working within the limits of this system, including by taking part in its electoral process, is bound to fail. All this speaks to a crucial point that I have spoken to before, and which I will return to soon. The situation in the world overall, and specifically within this country, where the fascist section of the ruling class is aggressively on the offensive, marked by their willingness to tear up the norms of how this country has been ruled since shortly after the Civil War in the 1860s, while the other section of the ruling class, represented by the Democratic Party, is on the defensive, desperately seeking to rely on those norms. This situation emphasizes why it is not only urgently necessary, but also possible to carry out a revolution to overthrow this whole system. It is a situation that is tactically difficult, but strategically more favorable for the struggle to bring about this revolution. Again, this is something I will get into further soon.